You ever have one of those days, you're at your desk all day, but by the time you clock out, you feel completely wiped, even though you barely moved a muscle? It's this weird, frustrating feeling, right? You're mentally just done. But why? Well, let's get into it, because the answer has nothing to do with physical work and everything to do with what's going on inside your brain. And does this sound familiar? You've spent the whole day just bouncing from one thing to the next. Emails, meetings, little fires everywhere. You feel like you've been running a marathon, but when you look at your to-do list, barely a dent. It's like you've been spinning your wheels all day. So here's the big takeaway right up front. This isn't your fault. You're not lazy, you're not undisciplined. What you're probably dealing with is a very real, well-documented thing called decision fatigue. Your brain is quite literally just out of gas. Okay, so to really get how this works, we have to look at the thousands of tiny little choices that are draining our mental batteries every single day, most of which fly completely under our radar. And listen, this isn't just some abstract theory. Some of the most effective people on the planet figured this out. Think about it. President Obama only wore gray or blue suits. Steve Jobs had his black turtleneck. Mark Zuckerberg has his gray t-shirt. Why? They knew they had a limited amount of mental energy, and they weren't about to waste it on what to wear. So what exactly is decision fatigue? It's pretty simple, really. Our ability to make good, rational choices is a finite resource. It's like a muscle that gets tired from overuse. As the day goes on and you make more and more choices, your brain gets worn out and starts looking for shortcuts. And that's when you do things like make an impulsive purchase or just choose the easiest option instead of the best one.
All right, let's peel back the curtain and get into the science of it. We're going to look at both the psychology behind this feeling and what's actually physically happening inside your head.
In psychology, the theory that explains all this is called ego depletion. And the idea is that your willpower isn't just some abstract concept, it's a real, measurable pool of mental energy. Every time you have to use self-control, like fighting the urge to check your phone or resisting a snack, you're dipping into that pool, leaving less for whatever comes next. And you can see this perfectly in a classic experiment. A researcher named Roy Baumeister brought a bunch of hungry college students into a lab. And what was waiting for them? The absolutely irresistible smell of fresh-baked chocolate chip cookies. Okay, so here's the setup. He told one group to go ahead and eat the cookies. But he told the other group they had to eat radishes, all while staring at the warm, delicious cookies they couldn't have. After that, he gave both groups a super frustrating puzzle to solve. And the results? They were just astounding. The students who had to resist the cookies, the radish group, gave up on the puzzle after only 8 minutes. But the cookie group, they kept at it for almost 19 minutes. That one small act of self-control literally cut their mental stamina in half. The Nobel Prize winner, Daniel Kahneman, summed it up perfectly. It's a loss of motivation. It's not that you physically can't do the next task, it's that you just don't feel like it. Your motivation has been totally drained. But this is where it gets really interesting. This isn't just some psychological trick your mind is playing on you. Modern neuroscience shows us there's a real physical reason your brain feels so tired. So here's what's going on. When you're doing intense mental work, a chemical called glutamate starts to build up in your prefrontal cortex. That's kind of like the CEO of your brain. Now, glutamate is important, but when there's too much of it, it actually becomes toxic and starts messing with your brain function. That feeling of brain fog, that overwhelming urge to just stop, that's your brain literally sending out a distress signal, telling you, hey, we need to stop and clean this stuff out before we do some damage. So, now that we know what's happening both psychologically and biologically, what in the world do we do about it? Well, the first step is to just lighten the load to begin with. The name of the game here is being proactive. Automate the little things, just like Obama and Jobs. Plan your meals, your outfits, whatever you can. Make your biggest, most important decisions in the morning when your willpower tank is full. And this is a huge one. Protect your focus. Turn off notifications, batch similar tasks together. Stop making your brain constantly switch gears. Because here's the thing. Every single time you switch tasks, you're paying what's called a productivity tax or attention residue. Even after you've moved on to something new, a part of your brain is still thinking about the last thing you were doing. And that residue makes you slower, more prone to mistakes, and is a major reason you feel so busy but not productive. Okay, so reducing the drain on your energy is half the battle. But we also have to get way better at actually refilling the tank. And spoiler alert, it takes a lot more than just getting a good night's sleep.
You see, our bodies and brains work in these natural cycles called ultradian rhythms, which last about 90 to 120 minutes. We go from high energy down into a trough. So instead of trying to power through for hours, it's way more effective to work in focused sprints of about 90 minutes and then take a real break.
And this is so important because real recovery means we need different kinds of rest. Yeah, physical rest is sleep. But if you're mentally exhausted, what you might need is sensory rest, getting away from screens and noise. Or maybe you need creative rest, going for a walk in nature. Or social rest, spending time with people who actually fill you up instead of drain you. The big mind shift here is to stop managing your time and start managing your energy. And that means building in little rituals to recharge each of your energy dimensions. For your physical energy, take that break every 90 minutes. For your mental energy, focus on just one thing at a time. For emotional energy, something as simple as taking a few deep breaths can make a world of difference. Okay, now for the ultimate solution. The best long-term strategy isn't about white-knuckling it or trying harder. It's about making productivity effortless by building a better system. So think of your brain as having two different systems. You've got the prefrontal cortex, which handles all the conscious, effortful stuff. It's incredibly powerful, but it is an absolute energy hog. Then you've got the basal ganglia. This is your habit center. It runs complex routines on autopilot with almost zero energy cost. And that right there is the secret to sustainable productivity. The goal is to turn repeatable tasks into habits. You're basically outsourcing the work from your high-energy conscious brain to your low-energy automatic brain. You're putting your productivity on autopilot, and that frees up all that precious willpower for the stuff that really needs it, like creative work and big-picture thinking. So that leaves us with a question, a challenge, really. What's one small, repeatable thing in your daily life? Maybe it's picking out your work clothes or deciding on lunch or your morning routine. What's one thing you can automate this week to free up your mind for the bigger things?